All right, so we have all the girders laid and nice and level. Got my buddy back there helping me. He's actually notching out the top piece of foam. We're removing an inch. It's 2-inch foam. We're going to remove an inch so that the back of our I-joist has more bearing surface on that back sill plate. Code only requires like 1.5 inches, I believe. There was about 1 3/4 inches. So, and we have room out here where it lands on the middle where we're going to splice it. Instead of overlapping them, we're actually going to splice it. So that's what we're doing. We're sliding those joists back because we have room. They'll have more bearing, which is good. And then we have room down here where it lands on our central girder. We'll cut that off, splice it. We can do full length runs all the way down the building. Right now I'm laying out my 16-ounce centers across these center girders, and we're doing pretty good. Are you able to grab that end and walk it down? If I grab right here? Yeah, I'll take this first one down. Will you have enough room? Oh, yeah. Okay. You good? Yep. Right there. Okay, I'm gonna put it right on the halfway mark. Oh. So we laid all our joists out, and the nice thing about I-joists is that you can get them in really long lengths. So I was able to order 28 footers that allowed me to span from one wall all the way to the center of the building. Okay.
This doesn't take no time at all.
No, it's worth doing this extra step.
I imagine you're going to use a whole lot of that construction adhesive.
Yep. Because I was originally going to use this for the subfloor, for the OSB onto the joist, but I ended up finding there's a spray foam version that's like 1,000 times quicker, because this will wear you out. Squeezing this thing, it wears you out. It's not required by code, but I added a little bit of that subfloor adhesive between the joist and girder as an extra precaution against squeaks. Anytime you have wood-to-wood connections or nails into your wood, in your flooring especially, there's a possibility to cause squeaking, and a little bit of that extra adhesive is just something that can help prevent that. Don't want squeaks, man. Don't want squeaks.
Give it that old wood house charm.
Then we drive our required screws through the bottom flanges of the joists down into the girders. About half done. All right, so we had all of our fun yesterday, laying all the joists, nice, easy, rewarding work, and now we're kind of back to a more tedious day of doing all the blocking and bridging between the joists here. And what I'm going to be doing this morning is adding rim board along here, and then in our corners, and anywhere that one of the timbers lands, we have to add LVL squash blocking so that the load of the timber and the weight of the timber transfers down into the girder and into the post and into the footing underneath the slab, or in the corners. Same thing, it just is all transferred directly to the foundation rather than those. So we'll be adding a bunch of web stiffeners over the girders in between these joists to strengthen the webs, and then also our squash blocking and the rim board, and a bunch of tedious stuff today. Slow moving, but it's important. Once that's all done, hopefully we can start laying sheathing down tomorrow or the next day. got a hump in the middle, looks like. The rim board, which is a pre-made 1 1/8 inch thick OSB material, is going to be glued and toe-nailed to the bottom plate, and those rim boards are running on the walls parallel to my joists. And for the spaces between my joists on the perpendicular walls, I'm going to use leftover I-joists for blocking in between those joists. If the floor assembly was sitting on top of the foundation wall rather than on that brick shelf set down into the foundation wall, then I would also secure a rim board to the ends of the joists rather than the blocking in between the joists. But in this situation, it works best for me to have blocking in between the joists on my ends. Then I'm going to cut some 2x10s to make for my blocking. The blocking really helps stiffen up a floor, and it prevents those joists from wanting to roll over. I talked earlier about squeaking, and the blocking here is probably going to be the culprit if I do end up having any squeaks down the road. I had to toe nail the blocks to secure them, and once again, anytime you have nails into your wood in your floor, they tend to loosen up over time, and when you walk across that area, the wood's going to move slightly from the weight and rub the nail, and that's where you can get a squeak. So I went back and added screws where I could and hope for the best. All right, so my buddy Cody's laying out web stiffeners. So what these things are is they're a block of wood essentially that strengthens the web over bearing surfaces here, and the manufacturer's details say that it needs to be 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 inch shorter than the top of that flange, and you have one on each side over these girders and bearing surfaces here, so that when there's weight driving down on that, doesn't crush. What'll happen is this OSB web in the middle will actually split through and push through the top of the flanges and the bottom of the flanges. So that's really the purpose of those. And my uncle, who's helping me, and my buddy Cody are going to be working on those, and I'm going to start shoring up our squash blocks. And with the squash blocks, I'm going to use LVL. I have my rim board there, and you really want to build up this where the post actually is. These are super strong, and so we'll build these up so that the post is resting on these squash blocks directly down into the foundation. All right, so I wanted to show you some of the details on this floor assembly and kind of the genius of how this all works with a timber frame. So in the corners, you can see these are squash blocks, and they're made out of LVL, and they transfer down to our sill ledge into the foundation wall. So our timber post, every post in this building falls right on these squash block areas. Here in the middle, there's another one, and the post will bear right here and transfer all the way down the foundation wall. And then in the middle, where all those posts are, we'll add additional squash blocking and web stiffeners to the joists, so that the timber, the weight of the timber on that surface area, will just go right down through the joist, into the girder, into the post, into the foundation, where there's a big foundation pad underneath the slab right there. So it's a really cool system, and it's just really kind of simple. And then the SIP panels will tie into the house along this top shelf. So this will be a 4x6 sill, and SIP panels will slot over top of it, and then you'll screw through the SIP panel into that sill plate, and then your big long screws go through the SIP panel into the timber and ties all the house together. So you have the foundation supporting the weight of the timber frame, this outer plate also supporting the weight of the timber frame, and providing a bunch of uplift and shear and racking force, which is really, really cool. I'll show you a side profile of what we're doing here. So here you have the foundation wall, the step, squash block, our joist, squash block above the post, and the big footer down there. And then the SIP panels that tie into the 4x6. And there's our post. And you see the weight transfers all the way down the wall, and then it gets screwed in through the SIP panel into the timber, and it's just a rock solid way to build a house. All right, so I made some plan changes. I decided over in our master bedroom area, our closet over here, we should have a crawl space entrance, as well as over here somewhere. So I needed to pulled out my blocking right there, and I'm gonna cut a crawl space opening in that joist right there, cut it, and then I got to double up these two, gotta sister those trusses, and I'm just gonna use 2x10s, and then I'll do double 2x10s on each side, use joist hangers to hang them to make my opening. Well, it's getting a little late in the evening, but I'm feeling ambitious, and I want to try to get a few sheets of plywood down. So I'm gonna give it a shot and see if this is gonna be a task that I can do reasonably well by myself, because I don't think I'll have any help for the next couple days. So I'm just gonna kind of try to see if I can get a row done and kind of work out the systems. Like every time I do a new task, you kind of got to work out a little routine, a little system, and kind of get that figured out. And then tomorrow I'll have hopefully a really productive day, and basically do almost the whole timber frame section of the house. I still have to lay the floor joists over in our stick-built breezeway area, but you know what, I'm kind of over that first section. I want to do something different, so we're gonna go ahead and try doing some sheets of plywood, see how it goes. I used a 3/4 inch tongue and groove OSB by Georgia Pacific that has a 500-day no sand guarantee for my subfloor decking, and I used the Advantech spray foam adhesive rather than the subflooring adhesive that's squeezed out of a caulk gun. The spray foam stuff is so much faster and easier to apply. I would have liked to use the lifetime guarantee Advantech subflooring, but it costs about twice as much as this stuff, and I figured that a 500-day OSB would be good enough and give me enough time to get this house dried in. Well, last night was really slow doing those 3 sheets with just the screw gun, and down on my hands and knees with the impact, and loading screws one at a time. So I was debating before I even started whether or not to get one of these automatic feed screw guns, and after those 3 last night I was like, for sure I need to do it. This was like about 250 bucks. You can use it for your deck, you can use it for drywall. It kind of comes with this long barrel so that you can stand up and use this, not have to bend over. And then you also have, you can run it in this configuration for like drywalling and stuff like that. Actually just put this tip on there and you can have all your screws fed and just move really quick. So I'm excited to try that out today. Hopefully it'll save me a whole heck of a lot of time, because that was really slow and not efficient at all. And since I'm pretty much by myself for the next couple days, I need to speed things up. So hopefully it was worth the money. And let me just say right now that that tool was 100% worth the money. It probably was 5 to 10 times faster, and it was way less hard on my body. So if you're thinking about buying one, I highly recommend it. For these sheets of OSB, I'm tapping them in place and I'm leaving an 1/8 inch gap per the manufacturer's instructions, and then I'm adding screws every 6 inches along the edge butt joints, and then every 12 inches on center throughout the middle, driving those into the floor joist below. Come look at the floor.
Wow, can I get up?
Yeah. Look at this. Got more to do, but isn't that cool?
Yeah.
They run right all around on it.
Is it going to break?
No, it's not gonna break. Hopefully. Pretty cool. Oh, you like that? That's a necklace made out of screws. Try it on. Whoa. You're like a warrior princess. Okay, so I had some fun laying all that sheathing down, and it's time to finish up the floor joists in the breezeway section. And you know what? I was actually surprised at how much extra pain in the butt it was with that little angle in that breezeway. It really adds a lot of time and finagling when you don't have angles that are 90 degrees. So hopefully the headache is worth it later on. Hey everyone, so I really wanted to take the time and thank you for watching the videos. I hope you're enjoying them. This whole process has been extremely challenging and stressful at times. I've lost a lot of sleep at night, and I worry all the time that I bit off too much and that I might let my family down. But seeing clips like this with my kids, gives me new strength and ambition to keep going. So that's what I'm gonna do. And now that the floor is done, all the fun stuff can begin. In the next several videos, it's gonna be all about timber framing and the classes that I hosted. So I hope you'll follow along on those videos, and I just wanna say thanks again and see you next time.